We'll be joined in just a few moments by head coach John Beilein and student athletes from the University of Michigan, who will advance to play in the national championship game on Monday evening. When we know the student athletes that are joining us here in the main interview room, we'll let everybody know the Michigan locker room will be open officially as soon as Coach Beilein and the student athletes start making their way here. The locker room is open for a period that is a minimum of 30 minutes. We'll try to keep you up to date as to the open locker room availability for student athletes for Loyola Chicago as well. It doesn't. The 30-minute window starts as soon as the coach and student athletes start making their way here. In the interest of time and deadlines, I think for you guys, you have the option of staying here or going, or both. Staying here as long as you can or heading down. Jesse, are reporters allowed to record audio on their phones from this news conference? I think so. If you want, you can do it like most awkwardly do by walking up to the speaker and holding it up. Always get a couple good ones like that. What's up, JG? Anybody want to guess as to the third one? The student athletes joining us from Michigan will be Mo Wagner, Charles Matthews, and Jordan Poole. Those three student athletes plus Coach Beilein should arrive in just a few moments. guys don't mind. Yeah, I'm going to redo it. Because of the wingspan. Actually, I never put a freshman furthest away from the coach at his first Final Four press conference. Okay. Coach Beilein and student athletes from Michigan are making their way to the interview room right now. That means that the Michigan locker room is open at this time. Just a reminder, while joining us here in the main interview room, please take a moment to silence your mobile phone at this time. Please refrain from the use of any flash photography or the use of any video recording device during these post-game news conferences or tomorrow's news conferences or Mondays. That includes handheld cameras, that includes mini cameras, and that includes cell phones, mobile phones. You're not permitted, unfortunately, to go live on any social media platform while in the main interview room during these news conferences. So just a reminder there. The satellite information, if needed, is in the possession of the able-bodied and able information people of Hammond Communications. If you need that information, go and visit one of our representatives from Hammond right in the center of the room, and they'll refresh that satellite info for you. If you have a question for coaches or student athletes tonight, tomorrow, or Monday, please raise your hand. We have 4 very capable and talented and hardworking microphone stewards. They're going to bring the microphone in your direction. State your name and media outlet, and then your question. If you need to follow up, please give me a signal after you ask the initial question. Hi, Mike. Welcome to San Antonio. Michigan has arrived. Jesse, I'm hearing some volume at one of the monitors, I think, just a little on a delay. Congratulations to you. That box score is free of charge, Coach. Good performance.
Thank you. Can I look at the box score for a second?
Sure. Tell me when you're ready.
Yeah, 36-32. We ended up being 7. We shot second half from 3. Yeah, we shot second half. We shot actually 33%. No, I'm ready.
The Michigan locker room is open. We'll be joined by student athletes in just a moment, but right now we have the head coach, John Beilein, joining us here after the victory over Loyola Chicago. Coach, we'll ask you to open things up with a statement, and then we'll take some questions.
Yeah, we're elated to get a win like that, and the way we did it. We see some really good defenses in the Big Ten. I mean, really good. I think I would argue it's the best defensive league in the country, and we saw some great defense. They're a little bit smaller at the forward positions or at some of the positions, and they can really get into you and guard. And they really gave us problems in the first half. They rotated so quickly. And this has been our dilemma all year long. How are people going to guard a shooting five? And then we have to adjust as the game goes on. We didn't adjust very well. But the second half, after we saw how there were actions, then we needed to make some shots. And we couldn't make them for a while. When we did, right, and our young guys came in there, all of a sudden we took off like crazy. And everybody's really happy. And we're ready to move on to the next game, whoever it is.
We'll take questions for Coach Beilein in just a few moments, but we're looking for questions at this time for the student athletes. If you have a question, please raise your hand. One of our microphone stewards will make their way in your direction. There's one all the way in the back, in the center. Cassie, if you can slide over. There's another one in the center here as well. We'll take that second. Name and media outlet, sir, and then your question.
Pablo Iglesias from Eagle News. Wanted to actually ask Mo Wagner about the second half performance. It seemed like Loyola tried to transition and kick you out to get more of the jump shot, and it kind of was effective in the first half, but it seemed like you really got to transition into that come second half. Could you talk about that performance for the second half?
I'm sorry, I don't think I understood the question.
No, that's okay.
You're talking about our performance or their performance?
Your performance in particular, the defensive shift. They tried to kick you out and tried to force more jump shots versus offensive rebounds and putbacks.
Well, yeah, I mean, it worked out in the first half because they switched a lot of ball screens, so I had a lot of easy offensive rebounds, and they just happened to, just occur. In the second half, I mean, we ran a little more set plays just because we're in front of our bench, so that's easier to call. And I think our offense was a lot more organized, and it's just happened to be like that.
Continuing with questions for the student athletes, Mo Wagner, Charles Matthews, or Jordan Poole in the center of the room.
Javi Perez, Ken's 5. Mo, there have only been 3 players ever that have had at least 20 points and 15 rebounds in a national semifinal. Hakeem Olajuwon, Larry Bird, and now you. When did you know that this was going to be your night?
Relax. I mean, if you put it like that, it's obviously pretty cool. But to be honest with you, I just kept looking possession by possession. We had trouble scoring the first half. We scored 22 points, and that was kind of the only way we found our way to the basket, grabbing offensive rebounds and getting second shots opportunity. And I honestly just tried to do my job, you know. The shots were falling. Second half, it's a lot more fun when the ball goes to the net. And, it's just worked out that way.
Continuing with questions for the student athletes, front and center, Mike.
Mike DeCourcy, Sporting News. Mo, you went off the elevated court twice tonight. I think that's a Final Four record. But can you explain how you were able to use your energy defensively? Because you got your hands on a lot of passing lanes, a lot of loose balls.
Yeah, I knew they were trying to punch us. First of all, you got to give them a lot of credit. Their set plays are incredible, tough to guard, and their big man does an incredible job down there as a freshman. So, we had to cover that somehow defensively, and I just tried to do my job, try not to foul and stay solid, build walls, and grab rebounds, and it worked out.
If you have a question for the Michigan student athletes, please raise your hand. Did you have one down front? Okay, even further to the front and center.
Ryan Schuling, the Team 92.1 FM in Lansing for Jordan Poole as a freshman on this stage. You guys trailed by 10 in that second half. They were guarding you really tough. What was the turning point as you saw it, Jordan? What was your role in that turning point?
I just tried to come in and provide a spark. It was a little bit hard for us to get open looks. But being able to be solid, and Coach preaches it all the time, and being able just to run the right plays, and everything started to open up, but also bringing positive energy on the offensive side and defensive side. It kind of started getting guys going, and Duncan was able to hit shots, and Mo was able to hit shots, and we're a team that feeds off of momentum, so when we were able to get our momentum going in our direction, everything really started to go in the right way.
We have another question for the student athletes in the third row toward the center.
John Whistler, San Antonio Express News. Mo, lots been kind of written this week. You guys may be playing the villain, knocking these guys. They've had a great run, Cinderella story. Talk about that, beating a very good team that was a national story.
We'll ask Mo to take that, and then Charles will ask you to take that as well.
Yeah, you gotta get some reps. Yeah, like I said, I mean, yeah, just like I said, I mean, you got to give them a lot of credit. I don't really like the saying Cinderella story because it always includes somehow that they're not supposed to be there, and the way they're playing, it's incredible. So offensively, very, very good, and defensively so solid. So they definitely deserve to be here and so efficient. So it's really tough to guard. And yeah, the whole villain thing. I mean, you guys love to write about it, talk about it, but at the end of the day, it's just basketball, you know. And yeah, we just try to win. So that's all we do.
Charles, the question is, what's it like to beat Cinderella?
Yeah, like I said, like sort of piggyback off what Mo said, we really don't get into those headlines at this team. We just come out here and play basketball. We never even looked at the team as a Cinderella team. It's like 300 and something Division I teams, and they one of the last 4 start standing. That's no Cinderella story, and we respected them, and we knew we had to come out here and execute versus them.
In that third row to the left side.
Stu Myrick, 104.9 The Horn in Austin. Coach Beilein, what was it that Loyola was doing kind of midway in the first half that you were seeing?
I'm sorry, we need questions for the student athletes. They're going to head back to the locker room
I'm
in just
sorry.
a moment, and we'll get to questions for Coach in a little bit.
Apologize. Charles, about midway through the first half, Loyola seemed to gain some momentum. What is it you were seeing from their defense that presented a challenge, and how did you overcome that challenge?
Well, I think this team, we understand that it's a game of runs, and we're not going to get rattled. We've been down before. I think the first game of the tournament, we started down like 10-0 nothing lead, and we just stayed to course, and we wasn't going to get rattled by them pressuring us and we missing shots.
Left-hand section all the way down front, continuing with questions for the student athletes. 2 more.
Josh Peter with USA for Jordan. After the game, looked like you ran down after Sister Jean and said something to her. What was that, and why'd you do it?
I just told her I was a big fan, and she got those guys. She had their back the entire time, and everybody talks about them being a Cinderella story, and she was getting a lot of attention. But being able to build a fan base how she did, and being able to have Loyola have so many fans out here and travel well, and I just thought the entire concept and everything that she brought to the table, and being able to have such a big impact on the team, being in a situation like this, I thought it was amazing. And like the kids don't really get to live in opportunities like this, so having those guys be able to do it, and her being behind her back, 'cause I thought it was pretty cool.
1 or maybe 2 more for Mo, Charles, or Jordan, if there are any. Let's go down to the front on the right side. Dennis.
Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports. Could you capsulize Coach Beilein's visit when he came over there and how you found college basketball to recruit you?
Me?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, that was obviously pretty cool for me because I watched this my entire childhood, this Final Four here, and I knew him from the final game, and yeah, it's kind of crazy now we're in it together, you know. And I had no idea back then, so as a little kid, and to see him in my living room come over during the preseason in October, that's something really special for a couple of hours, just to meet my family and see where I'm from. That's really cool, and it's a really cool story.
Final question for the student athletes goes to the front. Mike.
Charles, after Coach put in Jordan and Isaiah, I mean, you guys seemed to really have a lift, and he hit a baseline, and you came right after him. Could you feel the energy change that maybe, you know, the spark that those 2 guys brought on to, you know, to add to what you were bringing?
Yeah, the drip boys are full of swag, and you know that's what they call themselves. So they bring in instant energy, especially this kid right here. This is my roommate, so I got my hands tied with him the whole trip long. But like I said, he works so hard in on this game. I see him night in and night out. The stress that he brings himself because he cares so much, and I'm just happy to see him be able to perform well on the big stage the way he did.
We'd like to thank and congratulate Mo, Charles, and Jordan. They're going to head back to the locker room where the Michigan student athletes are available for several more minutes. And as soon as Jordan, Mo, and Charles get clear of the stage, we'll look for our first question for Coach Beilein. We'll take it down in front. Congrats, guys. Coach, let's start front and center.
Again, Ryan Schuling, the team 92.1 FM in Lansing. Coach, down 10, second half, you got a resilient group. You've overcome deficits before. What was the key? What was the turning point in this instance?
I think that we created, our defense created some turnovers I don't think we got any fast break points out of it, but we just stopped them. They're really difficult at this time in front of their bench, calling their plays. They run some great action. and they were going to get to some stuff. And we made a concerted effort to take away the 3, and a little bit like an Isaac Haas type of idea, where that kid's going to get 2 on Mo, but we're not going to give these great 3-point shooters. They make 7 a game. We limit them to 1. So, but the steals were really big just to stop the possessions, and then they didn't get too many second-half chances. So that was good. We had 10 steals. We averaged 6 a game. That was a big difference in the game.
All the way up front on the right side, Mark.
Mark Herman from Newsday, New York. John, I just want to repeat the question that the players answered. What's it like to face Cinderella? And when you've been around this an awful long time, and some teams just have magic on their side. How do you deal with magic?
Well, they certainly. I don't know if they had magic on their side. They're good. They wouldn't be here if they were not good. And they beat a Kansas State team that just beat Kentucky. Miami is a very good team. I mean, they're good. And in the NCAA tournament, everybody's on a neutral floor, and it's so even. And they don't get the opportunity to play home games against schools like Michigan, and they probably never will. And so as a result, they're good, but people don't know how good they are until you see them out there. So they stopped being a Cinderella when they got to the 16, to me, as an 11 seed. The NCAA committee has such a difficult time doing this, and everybody can't be a 1 through 4. But there's so little difference between the 4 seed and the 13 seed. It's much bigger. It's much smaller a difference than you would think, than numbers.
In the third row, San Antonio.
Yes, John Whistler, San Antonio Express News. John, talk about the game that Mo had, especially that first half, because he really saved you.
Yep.
Without him, the first half, you may have been in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, we had 8 turnovers in the first half. We were 1 and 8. I don't think you've ever seen one of our teams ever be 1 assist and 8 turnovers. We went 2 for 5 from the foul line, and they came out, and we I shouldn't say we didn't expect it. We had to adjust to how quickly they were rotating with some of our action. But because they were switching so much, Mo just went down, and that's where he got his, I think, 3 offensive rebounds. And that was really the only way we scored. And that anybody that follows Michigan wouldn't say, hey, they're going to kill you on the offensive boards. We don't. But because they were switching, we said, Mo, you just got to roll more. You just got to slip more and get down there and clean up any rebounds you can get, because they got a 6-foot guy on you.
Let's get the mic.
Yeah,
okay.
Yep. Yeah, and so that's it, and that's what's going to bless him for a career after he's done with college. Is rebounding was not a strength with him, and now for him to get 15 rebounds like he did, that's a great step for him. It's a work in progress.
You guys are definitely allowed for follow-ups. We'll get the microphone to you, so just give us a signal. We'll get it to you. Down front with Mike.
John, when you went with Mike DeCourcy, Sporting News,
Yeah.
when you went with Isaiah and Jordan, was the idea that we are longer and more athletic than you, and we have to make that the advantage since nothing else at this point
No,
is really?
Muhammad just wasn't himself. He I think he was 0 for 7 in the first half. He had missed some wide open shots, and it's like I know one guy that will want to take those shots, and it's Jordan Poole, and Duncan as well. I just said, if he's not making these shots right now, he's not going to make them as the game goes on. So I felt both of them just needed a little bit of rest. And then when we started to turn things, it said, okay, leave him in there. I think because Muhammad's really an elite defender, and Duncan's Duncan's better at understanding the scheme. So, but I kept going to my assistants and saying, you want to go back with him? He said, no, the young boys are getting it done. And because they're just growing defensively. They can't even come close to understanding what the upperclassmen are doing, but they still got it done, and it was great.
Last row toward the right side.
Madeline Kenny for the Chicago Sun-Times. Coach, you talk about Loyola being here because they're good, but realistically, if they didn't win their automatic bid, they might not have even had a chance.
Yeah.
So can you talk about your thoughts on mid-major programs getting overlooked by the committee?
Yeah, I think the committee continues to look at all this, and we need more. If the mid-majors want to have the committee look at it, the committee will do the right thing. And as a result, they will. They made it to the here, and we've seen this with VCU. We've seen it with Wichita State. We've seen it with George Mason. It's going to happen, and the more that it happens, the more they'll do that. I got so much respect for the guys in that room, and it's not an easy job. And maybe they're going to look at some ways to change that. You know, some ideas I had. If you have a losing record in a power conference, you probably shouldn't go. That's something people should think about. right? Or make us play one home and home with someone else. But there's a huge revenue stream here that we lose with that. So there's a lot of things that go into it besides this. The big thing is they need to win games and go beat us on the road, right? But I don't know too many people are going to go want to play Loyola anymore.
In the center of the room, Coach.
Coach Javi Pettis, Ken's 5. Loyola has really made its tournament run by shooting really well from the three-point line. They only went 1 for 10 in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that you concentrated on, and how did you stop it?
Yeah, if you look at our numbers, we're one of the best three. We started it last year when we went on a run of really trying to shut down the three ball. And as a result, it's really worked well for us. So our goal is not let people get the number that they get. They were averaging, I think, 7 in the tournament. We average about 9 makes. They held us under our number, but we really held them under their number. But no, we're not alone on that. A lot of teams do that as part of their plan. And we got guys that can do that, too. You got to have guys that can do that.
Coach, we're going to go all the way back to the left in the aisle.
Yes, sir.
Ryan Willett, ESPN San Antonio. Coach, looking ahead to Monday night, any thoughts on Villanova or Kansas?
No, no. I'm just like this. I treat this, and with more experience, maybe I've been done. My assistants have been working on those two teams, but probably by 5 a.m. I'll be up tomorrow, and by 10 I'll be able to tell you something. But for right now, I am just going to worry about. They're both great teams, great coaches. Who knows what's going to happen?
And Coach joins us at noon local time. Tickets are on sale now. Back to the right again.
I have a follow-up to my previous
ma'am.
question. You talked about the strength of schedule, and Porter Moser even said that, it's hard to get, Power 5 conference teams to play Loyola or mid-major programs. Would you potentially want to play Loyola in the future?
We're always looking for opportunities to play good home and homes. But again, we lose a lot of money when we go on the road to play. And as a result, there's a lot of implications, and that money Michigan, every power conference needs. So as a result, that's something that we've always done, and we've been very aggressive at looking to play good road games. But I would always consider that, right?
There's a follow-up.
If Sister Jean asked me, I might even have a better chance of it happening.
I mean, Chicago's pretty close to Michigan.
No, it is, but don't forget we play Northwestern. We do get a pretty good crowd there as well.
Center of the room now, Coach.
Brian Gillis, SB Nation. Coach, you talked about before putting some of the younger guys in, Jordan, Eli, even Evie. You not only changed personnel, but it seemed like the offensive philosophy changed a little bit. It wasn't just Jordan, but Charles, and even Eli seemed to drive a little bit more than the perimeter base. Was that kind of by intention? I don't want to say desperation, but were you trying to mix things up?
We've been playing all year, and we're going to take what people will give us. And if they're going to take the three-point shot away, then we're going to have to, we got to drive the ball into the gaps. And that's something we've been working on all year long, and frankly, we've gotten better at it. But some kids come in, you have no idea. They play off 1 foot all the time, and they're up and they just have no idea how to do this. We watch Muhammad Ali does it well. Xavier, while he didn't have a great game today, he did a great job down the stretch for us. It's things that we still have to work on, but we're going to do. We want to be versatile enough to do whatever people try and take away from us. We're going to go the opposite.
And the final question for Coach Beilein, down front in the center.
Ryan Schuling, the team 92.1 FM in Lansing. One more time, Coach. Second time in 6 seasons you've been to the championship game. 2 very different teams that have gotten there.
Yeah.
How would you compare and contrast the challenge of getting this team here compared to that one?
I think this team has been really. We've been very fortunate. We've won some. That team would have won another Big Ten championship if the ball didn't roll off the rim against Indiana. We had an injury to Jordan Morgan in that season that even though Jordan did not play well even at the end of the year because he was still really injured, that really shook us up when we lost to an 0-13 Penn State team at Penn State that year that really rallied us. So that team probably had, because they started out 19-0, had more to had so much attention it overwhelmed them a little bit in February. This team has had no attention at all. Until we went up to beat Michigan State, we weren't even nationally ranked. And now here we are playing on Monday night. So this team is very appreciative. And on that team, we had some guys that turned out to be pros, right? No, but I tell you, when we played that Monday night, nobody thought Karis LeVert or Nick Stauskas would be first-round draft choices. So we've been able to just, just help this team grow, and who knows what we have out there. But the whole idea is these kids have played well, and they play together just like that team.
We want to congratulate Coach Beilein and thank him for joining us here once again. Coach, we'll see you tomorrow.
Mark. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks, Mark.
You guys can come up. We're joined now in the main interview room by the head coach Porter Moser and student athletes from Loyola Chicago, Ben Richardson, Dante Ingram, and Andre Jackson. We're going to ask Coach to make an opening statement, then we'll take some questions first for the student athletes. Coach.
Just want to first congratulate Michigan. They played a great game. They did what great teams do. They capitalized on that run when we made 6 turnovers in a row. But I'm going to congratulate them. But I also sit here, and cannot be more proud of a group than I am of this group. And when I walked off the floor, I was asked what I said to them, and what I said to them was, the more you invest in something, the harder it is to give up. And they didn't want to end it. And they have so much to be proud of. They changed the perception of a program. They changed the perception of when you say Loyola Chicago. For men's basketball, they changed that, the perception of it. They impacted so many lives around, started with our campus, and then it spread on high character kids playing their tails off unselfishly. So I couldn't be more proud and saddened that it's over with these guys, with this group, because there is this high character, fun group to be around that I've ever been around.
Just a reminder that the Ramblers locker room is now open for student athlete availability. Here in the main interview room, we're going to take some questions for the student athletes only, and we'll get to questions for Coach Moser in a few moments. First question for the student athletes. If you have one, please raise your hand. We'll send a microphone attendant in your direction. And just to the right of the aisle on the left side.
Ben Balch, Los Angeles Times. There was a stretch there, I think, where you guys had 5 turnovers in a row in the second half, kind of turned the tide of the game there. What do you think happened there to kind of cause the offense to sputter at that point and turn things?
Let's ask Dante to take that one, and then Ben.
I mean, obviously, you don't want to go on those droughts and give teams a chance to go on runs like that. I think this team was, trying to be aggressive, trying to make the right plays. I think a couple of times we just got a bit sped up or just a miscue, and it happens sometimes. But unfortunate, for us, obviously, to go through that drought. But give credit to Michigan. They played a great game.
And Ben.
Yeah, just kind of like he said, we were being aggressive, trying to get downhill. We were kind of struggling to kind of get the domino started, but yeah, just credit to them. They were, making good plays on the ball, and we weren't, capitalizing like we normally do, making good passes, turned it over, had a couple, miscues, like he said, but just give credit to Michigan.
Last row of the center section.
Len Jennings from KMBC in Kansas City. Ben, knowing that this is probably the last game you play with Clay, can you talk about the experience that you guys have played through the years?
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to sink in yet. It hurts to have this be the last one. This we wish that it could ended better. We believe that we could have, gone on but I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of each and every one of these guys, and I'm proud of Clay. Nothing made me happier than being able to, take the floor with him and compete with him. Having him join me in Chicago was a dream come true, and we did a lot of things that people probably didn't think that we could do, and we proved a lot of people wrong, and I love that guy to death, and we'll never forget this.
In the back on the right side, questions for the student athletes.
Maddie Kenny from the Chicago Sun-Times. Ben and Dante, when you guys first came, CBI tournament, played in front of us, maybe a couple hundred fans, and now you end your career here at the NCAA tournament Final Four in front of 60,000 fans. Can you kind of talk about what kind of legacy you guys hope you've left with the program?
We'll ask Dante to take that first, and then Ben, please.
I mean, me and Ben have been in this together, since day one. He's only me and him are only guys on the team that have seen all this come up from day one, along with coach. And obviously, we came a very long way, as you say, from freshman year to maybe 100 on a good day, coming to the game to, being able to, buy into the culture and turn things and be able to make people in the city of Chicago proud. So, I mean, obviously, this is something that, will keep us connected for the rest of our lives. And, I love all these guys like brothers. We're all family, from the players, the coaching staff, and, I won't forget this.
Ben, can you take that as well?
Yeah, I mean, it hurts right now, and we're disappointed, but we're gonna be able to have a lot of pride in the fact that we made a name for ourselves and kind of let the whole country know what we're about and worked hard for it and we earned everything that we got, and I think we did it the right way, and it's special to see kind of what stage that we were able to get to, and despite going out this way, we're gonna never forget this, and I think a lot of people will remember this run for a long time.
In the center of the room, continuing with questions for the Loyola student athletes.
Tessa Barada, CBS affiliate in Corpus Christi. Kind of a dual-part question, one statistical, one emotional. What did Sister Jean tell you, anything after the game? What did she tell you? And then also, what part of Michigan's game did you find that you struggled with the most, specifically the second half?
Did you want any particular student athlete to answer that? Okay,
Doesn't matter.
Andre, let's get to that one to you.
Sister Jean just said it was a great season. She was so happy to be on this run with us, and that we should keep our heads high and be happy with what we accomplished.
Let's go to the right side, Ralph.
To any of the players, what was it about Michigan's
defense and Wagner that made, you guys have responded to everything over the last couple of weeks. What was it about those guys that maybe made it a little too tough this time around?
Andre, we'll start with you on that one again.
I guess it was rebounding. At some point, it was rebounding. We were supposed to get more rebounds than we should have. We gave up offensive rebounds, which allowed them to get more points. So I'd say rebounding was a big focus.
Dante, can you take that one as well?
Just tagging off what Dre said, just rebounding and obviously the turnovers, hurt us as well. 2 categories that we want to be on the better side of in our game goals for each game, and I think we failed both of those goals. And obviously you want things to go different, but those are the 2 things that got to us.
Time for 1 or 2 more for the student athletes up front.
Ryan Schuling, the Team 92.1 FM in Lansing for Ben. Ben, if you could just speak to the preparation, the coaching, the journey with Porter Moser, your head coach, and how he prepared you for this moment in front of all these people to take it to a tough Michigan team the way that you did, to lead by 10 in the second half. You guys played them tougher than any team I saw this year.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that I learned, life lessons from this guy, and I couldn't be happier to have chosen Loyola and came to Chicago and played for him. And, as far as preparing for Michigan, we prepared just like everybody else. He's super detail-oriented, and we were ready for, everything that they were going to, throw at us. Obviously, we didn't execute some of our game plan like we wanted to, but, just the way that we've, continuously been prepped for every team that we face this year, and whether it's film, walkthroughs, practices, and then extra walkthroughs just in ballrooms, we'll set it up wherever we can just to get, a competitive advantage, and that's something that he's always, been really passionate about, giving us that confidence, because, we by the time the game comes, we've prepped so much that we have a real confidence that, we're going to win the game because we know what they're going to throw at us. And I think the way that he's done that is, really propelled us and helped us in this tournament. Obviously, tonight we didn't execute the game plan well enough, but yeah.
We want to thank Andre and Dante and Ben for joining us here in the main interview room. We want to congratulate you guys on an outstanding postseason run here to the Final Four. They're going to head back and join their teammates in the locker room. Should be still open for just a few more moments. Thanks, guys.
We'll see you guys in there. See you in there. See you, Dre.
We'll take questions now for Coach Moser. Let's start on the right side with Ralph, and we'll use the back right microphone for this one.
Coach, a similar question to what I asked the players. When you talked about the turnovers and how things started breaking down, was it something that their defense did that caused that? Was it you players talked about being sped up? Could you put a finger on what caused that point where it sort of broke down for you guys?
We had that run with the turnovers, and it snowballed on us. Then they hit some shots, and I don't think it was any one thing. We try to space it and cut hard. Their length, they're really good defensively. They close the gaps. We always talk about getting the domino going. They close that gap of opportunity really fast. Like we've done a good job all year of spacing it, moving it, and when there's an opportunity, we kind of are unselfish to take advantage of an opportunity when a gap opens up or a breakdown opens up. They were shrinking the gap of opportunity so fast with their length. I remember one back cut, I thought it was wide open, and all of a sudden they closed to the body with their length and got a deflection. I mean, they combined. You have a small window for opportunity, and I thought we were doing a lot of good things, and then in that run, we had that many in a row, and they capitalized on it. I mean, I remember specifically that, Wagner got out of a double team on the baseline and just threw a bullet, and then they threw one more to the corner. It was just so hard. Ben was trying his hardest with the rotation. I thought we were rotating so well for so long that it just was a step slower, when you start getting that many turnovers in a row, and it was a painful run, and you got to credit Michigan. They were really shrinking the gap defensively. They're really good defensively.
Coach, in the back of the room on the right side.
Can you just talk about the impact Ben and Dante have had on this program over the last 4 years?
Yes. I just told them, I remember moving him in as freshmen in the summertime into the dorm with their parents there, and they were just two high energy, fun, young little guys. I remember moving them in, and it just goes so fast. And to do what they did, to win more games in a 4-year span. I don't know what they won. They won 89 or some games in a 4-year span, and to do it the right way, the way they are off the court. I'm telling you, I haven't had one. I mean, not even a littering violation with these guys. Dropping a Kleenex. I mean, these guys are just so high character, and but it's what they did is very hard to do. They changed. They left an impact on this school, this student body. Look at the ride the student bodies went on. Look at the ride the alumni went on from coast to coast. Look at the perception of people looking at what they did and how they did it. I mean, leaving an impact like that, they changed the perception of Loyola. And when you say that word, they impacted it. And they're not going to know that right now, because their pain in the locker room, I was proud of them how they held their composure here, and I wouldn't have cared if they didn't. But it was as tough a locker room as I've seen, because they believed they belonged. They believed like they wanted to advance. And any time in life when you invest so much into something, it's harder to let it go. And those two have invested everything. They've done everything we've asked them to do, everything. And I am a better person and a better coach for coaching those guys.
Up front to the right here, Coach. Shannon.
Shannon Ryan, Chicago Tribune, kind of following up on that with the future of the program. And Cameron Krutwig was in the locker room saying, the seniors kind of started this, and there's more to be done with this program. Where do you think this takes expectations, and what does this season do for you guys basketball-wise beyond perception?
Well, I've talked a lot about culture and trying to develop a culture of the way we do things. And I hugged Krutwig and all those guys, and I just said, you guys are the keepers of the culture now. I mean, you guys got to be the keepers of this. I mean, what we're doing, I hugged Christian Negron and said, your offseason starts when we get back. Lucas, I talked to Lucas about Ben. People kind of joke in our locker room that Lucas is Ben's little protege, and what Ben does. And you want it to sustain. You want it to sustain with the guys that didn't get as many minutes. They got it, and the guys that did, the Marcus Towns, the Claytons, the Lucas, the Krutwigs, those guys got to be the keepers of the culture and, do things a certain way. And that's the way we're going to do them.
Back of the room, Coach, to the left.
Mike Benson, AP Radio. Coach, yesterday you talked about the dilemma of guarding Mo Wagner. And did he kind of cause that problem, especially like the first half he was offensive rebounds. It seemed in the second half he was kind of moving out and hitting some shots from the outside. I
liked the way a lot of things we were doing defensively on him. I mean, I liked it. I didn't look at it and say what we were doing, what we were worried about. What happened was, he got some offensive rebounds. And that was, some of the things you give up with our size, and he got down in the block. He got open late. He hit that 1-3 that it was tough. We were not trying to be off him. We were off him 2 arm lengths, and we shouldn't have been off him 2 arm lengths. And he hit a deep bomb, and he made a really nice pass. But I thought we did some, and I'll look at the tape, but I was really pleased with some of the things we were doing, based on our game plan against him. with it. I think a lot of those points were off offensive rebounds in the first half, and then he got free for those two. We were kind of off of him. Really good player. You know what he is? He's a competitor. He competes. I mean, he wants to win. He competes. He's emotional. He's passionate. And I like guys like that.
Up front and center.
Ryan Schuling, the Team 92.1 FM in Lansing. Coach, what a ride.
Thank you.
I want to ask you kind of a variation of what I said to Ben about the preparation in this team. Their belief in you and what you're doing, their commitment to that, but then there's your belief in them. You beat an ACC team, an SEC champion, a Mountain West champion, a Big 12 team. You went toe-to-toe with the Big 10 champion on the biggest stage there is. At what point did you have that faith, that belief that they were capable of this, and what tipped you off to that?
This has been something that's been, developing over a handful of years, just developing the culture of little things, and it's the little things that separate us. We know we don't have to be the most talented team, but I think we're together. But just watching this team grow, the unselfishness of this team, the buy-in. Ben talked about the attention to detail. It's a lot, and I've never seen the guy. I mean, the guys are really receptive to a competitive advantage, and they bought in. They've bought in, and I thank them for that. Because as coaches, there's the buy-in attitudinally, the buy-in effort-wise. I mean, off the rails with this group, and that's where the direction's been going. I mean, we've just been getting better and better players, and winning kids. But I tell you, there is a ton of love in this locker room, and it's very hard to end it, but there's no end. Like I told these guys, I said, we're going to be connected for life. I mean, I tell them in the recruiting process, you're not making a 4-year commitment to Loyola and playing for us. You're making a lifetime relationship, and that's what we have. That's what these guys have. It's a lifetime relationship, and it's just not a 4-year commitment. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that they use the word family all the time. I mean, you hear that word all the time with this group. I love that. It means a lot to me.
We want to thank Coach Moser and congratulate him on a great run here in March.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.